Okay, today we're going to talk about conversions between decimals, fractions, and percents. This is kind of a long video. This is stuff you should have learned in 5th grade. So we're going to make sure that you've got it fresh in your mind to help you with percents of a whole. So first of all, we're going to talk about decimals to fractions. And the easiest thing to do is say it out loud or say it to yourself in your head. So let's look at this one. 3/10. We can easily write that as a fraction, 3/10. 54 hundredths. Easily 54 over 100. Okay, and then this one here, let's see what this one's going to be. 264 thousandths. So this one's going to be over 1,000. And now this one here is got a whole number, so we have 3 and 7/10. So to write this as a fraction, we're still going to have 3 as the whole number. 10th is going to be our denominator, and then 7 here. Now, there's a rule that you always got to remember to simplify, and it's at the bottom of my screen down here. Let's see if you can see it. Always simplify. So we got to see if we need to simplify. So our first one, 3/10. We can't simplify that any further. That is where it needs to be. So it's good, 3/10. If we look here at 54 hundredths, that one can be simplified. We can divide by 2. So it would be 27/50. 27/50ths. And then this one here could definitely be reduced down, and it would be 33/125. And then this one here can stay like it is. It's a prime number, cannot be reduced any further, so we know that one's correct as well. Okay, so now let's look at changing fractions to decimals. Now, the first method I'm going to show you is equivalent fractions with a denominator of 10, 100, or 1,000, or etc. All right, so we have here 3/4, and we're going to change it to a decimal. So first of all, we're going to think about how can we change that to be a 10 or 100 or something on the bottom. Well, we can't easily go to 10, okay, but we can go to 100. So think about 4 times what gets me 100? Well, 4 times 25 gets me to 100. 3 times 25 will get me to 75. So now, 75 hundredths, we can change that to a decimal, 75 hundredths, because we know the last place has to be in the decimals. Okay? This one here, the same way. We're going to change it from 13/500ths to first a fraction and then a decimal. So let's think here. Well, I can change that easily to 1,000 by multiplying times 2. 500 times 2 gets me 1,000. Times 2 be 26 thousandths. And then I need to make sure that if I can simplify it, that I do. Okay? So I would do that if I needed to, if I was getting down simplify, or I can just write it as 26 thousandths. Well, think about your place value. Tens, hundredths, thousandths. You want your last ones to be in your thousandths. So you're going to write this as 26 thousandths as a decimal. Okay? Now the second method is my favorite method because it's easier and it takes less time. So this one is when you divide the numerator by the denominator. So let's look at the same ones we had. 3/4. We've just taken 3 and divided it by 4. Now we have to add a decimal, and this is something that you should have been working on here recently. And then I divide as normal, or you can use your calculator, which is great. Okay? And then 5 divided by 8, and again it gets 625 thousandths. Okay? Great job. All right, let's talk about how we change a percent to a fraction. Now, the first way I'm going to show you is just putting it over 100. It's simply out of 100. So when you're talking about percents, we write it as out of 100 per 100. So 38 over 100. And then we simplify it down. So how could that be simplified down? Well, we can divide it and we can get 19 over 50. Go back to your simplifying video if you can't remember how to do that. Okay, simplify it down. Always, these are even, so divide by 2. Okay, then we have 87%. Well, we're going to put it over 100 per 100. And then, can we simplify that down? No, it's a prime number, so it is simple as it can go. Then we look at 106%. And some of you are going to say, well, wait a minute, this is more than 100%. That's okay. Remember, when we have extra credit, sometimes we will have over 100%. And that is perfectly fine. We want to have that. It makes our grade great. All right, so when we have this here, we can simplify it down. We don't change it to a mixed number. We still just simplify it down as a fraction. So when we divide it, we get 53 over 50 when we divide by 2. Okay, and continue to go. So this is now simplified. Okay, so we have 53 50ths. All right, now let's look at our another one. How to change fractions to percent. You have to find an equivalent ratio with 100 as the denominator. All right, so I look here and I think, oh, I'm not really sure how to get 40 to 100, but I can easily get it to 10. All right, so I'm going to change it to a 10. I do that by dividing by 4, which means I have to do the same to the top. Divide by 4. 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. So now I want to get it to per 100, so I'm going to change it one more time to 100. 10 times 10 is 100. Times 10 on top, and I got 20 over 100, and now I write it as a percent. That's 20%. 20 out of 100, 20%. Okay? Now with 35 on the bottom, I think, oh my goodness, how am I going to do that? But I can easily see that that's divisible by 5. So I can get it to a 5, because 5 goes in 100 very easily. So 35 divided by 7 gives me 5. 28 divided by 7 gives me 4. So now I have 4 fifths. Now I can change it per 100. So I'm going to change this to 100. 5 times what gets me 100? 20 times 20. 4 times 2 is 8, and then a 0. So this is 80 over 100, which is the same as 80%. All right, now let's talk about percent to decimal conversions. Now, our first method is that we're going to write the percent as a fraction and then convert the fraction to a decimal. So what does that mean? Write the percent as a fraction. Well, 48, and we know that a fraction, we can put it over 100. Because remember, it's always out of 100, percent's out of 100. So 48 out of 100, or 48 hundredths, same thing as 48% is a fraction. And now I want to simplify that and convert that fraction to a decimal. Well, remember, place value, we have a decimal, hundredths, we're going to have 2 spots, tenths, hundredths, 48 hundredths. Okay? Now, we're going to change this one also. So 8%, we put it over 100. Remember, percent's out of 100. 8 hundredths. We're going to change that to a decimal. We have hundredths, tenths, hundredths. Our last number has to go in the hundredths. And now 0.08 or 8 hundredths is the same thing as 8%. Okay, that's one method. The other method, I of course like the easier stuff, the stuff that makes sense to me quicker. So this is one of my favorite ones. We have to move the decimal point. Simple, simple. Okay, and when we're moving it from a percent to a decimal, we are going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. Okay, so we don't see our decimal here, but remember, decimals are always besides whole numbers. Even if they're invisible, they're there. So we're going to move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So now we have 48 hundredths is our same as our 48%. Now with this one, we have our decimal here, and again we're going to move it 2 places. 1, 2. We have nothing here, so we have to add a 0. So our decimal is 8 hundredths as a decimal. All right, this is our final part, decimal to a percent. So first method is we're going to write the decimal as a fraction, then a percent. So we got to think about, all right, we have tenths, hundredths, so we can put it over 100. 36. Okay, so we have 3,600, and then we can just write that as a percent, 36%. Those are all equivalent. Now let's look at this one. Well, we have 2, and it's in the tenths place, so we're going to write it over a tenth. Okay, so 2 tenths. We can change that to 100 times 10 times 10. And we get 20 over 100, which is the same thing as 20%. So So now we have it as a percent. And then the final one is 03. So we have two places. So we can do that over 100 because it's in the hundredths place. Okay. And you can put your 3 there if it makes you feel better. It's not necessary. You can just put a 3. So 3 hundredths is the same thing as 3%. Okay? Now let's talk about the easier method, moving the decimal. Okay, we're going to multiply by 100 and add the percent sign. So if we think about this, we're just moving our decimal 2 places to the right. Before we moved it to the left to change it from a percent to a decimal. Now we're going from just a decimal to a percent, so we're going to change it going to the right. So we're going to take our decimal, 1, 2. This is now 36%. Okay, same thing here, 1, 2. There's nothing there, so we got to add a 0. It's the same as 20%. Now, this is a good refresher. Make sure you take all the notes that you can and practice, practice.